Hello, everyone. Hi, we are live. Let me use my lights. Okay. I kept my light off in the back because it's nighttime. I want to give it a nighttime vibe. How are y'all? Thank y'all so much for tuning in. Let me just make sure I'm live everywhere and I share it everywhere. Thank y'all so much for joining. Tonight we'll be discussing the June Book Club selection, which is The Color of Compromise by Jemar Tisby. Hey Tova, you're on time. Thank you. I hope that the internet connection stays stable tonight. It is a little spotty here, but just bear with me if it does not, or let me know in the comments. That way I can adjust it however I can on my end. But we're going to get started in just a second. I'm just trying to find everything. Okay. So yes, as I mentioned, this is the first discussion for the Unlearning Anti-Blackness Book Club's June selection, which is The Color of Compromise by Jemar Tisby. It's forwarded by Lecrae. He's a hip hop artist. I'll just say, as soon as I read this forward, look, I was like, oh my God, this is everything I've ever wanted to say. But it's interesting that Lecrae did the forward for these because he found himself in a little controversy surrounding this whole topic, but we'll talk about that later. I want to just thank you again for watching. I'm excited to discuss this book. It's an understatement. I have been anticipating this discussion for over a year. This just how long I've thought about this and tried to put it together in the best way possible. I want to shout out Tony. Tony's my husband, you guys. He stepped in at the last minute to co-host. He's actually working late, so he's going to join us a little bit later. But I just want to go ahead and send a shout out to him and thank him for his support and being there for me. And actually, that kind of brings me to a little bit of what I want to share about how the discussions will actually go. So I started this book club last year, and I started with a nonfiction book like The Color of Compromise, but it was a very thick read. I actually have it right here. It was thick, and everybody was like, girl, really? You're going to be reading that book by yourself? And I pretty much read it alone. So when I would come on and discuss it, it would just be me, and I would just talk about my opinion with the book. But now I've actually had people to reach out and share that they're reading, either they're reading an audio book or they have an actual physical copy of the book. So this time around, I would like to actually have people come on and co-host with me. So if you are not intimidated by that, and that sounds like something you'd be interested in, please let me know. So Yolanda is watching on Facebook. Yes, I will be chatting actually from where I am. I'll just be posting in one area on my screen, and it will go to all the chats, or it should be. Either way, I can see your messages, obviously, and can can answer your questions or share your feedback if I see it, if it's someone on YouTube that may not be able to see it. I hope that kind of answers your question or the reason why you asked the question. So I want to quickly just share a couple of things in addition to the co-hosting. So again, if that's not something that you are she said, I'm here for it. Yes. Okay, good. So I think you're referring to what I'm actually going into. So obviously today, Tony's going to be co-hosting with me later, but if you have something that you want to say and you don't want to type it, you want to actually come on the stream and say it, I will be sharing a link in between each chapter discussion for you to actually call in. So when I'll share the link, You click it and it will show me on my end that you're here, and I'll just add you in. So whether you're watching on Facebook or on YouTube, Nick says he's down. Wherever you're watching, you will still be able to see the link, or you'll be able to. And if the link doesn't work, we'll figure out another way to do it. But I do want to open it so that everyone can actually come in. Oh, Nick, you're probably talking about co-hosting. Okay, yes. Co-host as well. Let me know, and I'll make sure to send you out an email, and we can kind of do a little run through before we actually have the discussion. So to get into tonight, I want to talk a little bit about why I'm even talking about this book, because the book club, the live streams that I've done for the last year, this book actually inspired all of that. So I was already like in the thick of a spiritual journey. So I don't consider my childhood part of my spiritual journey, because it wasn't like I had a choice in what I believed spiritually. I went along with my mom and my family and everybody else, the status quo. Everyone around me went to Baptist Black churches, so that's what I did. So when I refer to my spiritual journey, I'm really referring to the last couple of years when I decided to actually take control of my spirituality and take it seriously. It happened around the time of COVID. It was like right before COVID, and then, well, the beginning of COVID here in America, and then George Floyd was murdered. And that was what I would say has been a defining moment in my life. It has completely changed the way I look at the world. That situation led to me really exploring my spirituality and what I believe and why I believe it, and really kind of trying to reconcile that with my reality. So I'm sure many of you would agree, the Black people that are watching, that sometimes being a Christian, it conflicts or is complicated with what you actually have to experience and live out in life. And it does, for at least for me, it didn't always add up. It didn't always match. And so I had these questions that some of them were legitimate, like spiritual questions in terms of how do I go about this life? But a lot of them were, these standards seem impossible when I'm faced with the things that I'm faced with, particularly when we talk about forgiveness and turning the other cheek and things like that. How do you tell that to someone who is racially profiled by the police constantly, who lives at a disadvantage from the rest of society just because of their skin color? It's just these questions that I always had. And so George Floyd was murdered. I decided I'm just gonna like figure this out. And I ordered a bunch of books, and this was one of the books. And so it was so special to me that it led me here. So long story short, I say this all the time, this story could go on forever. That's kind of what led me here. And this book in particular, if you're watching and you have not read it, this book is called The Color of Compromise: The Truth About the American Church's Complicity in Racism. And it specifically talks about it from a Christian standpoint. And Jemar Tisby actually has connections to Mississippi. If you did not know, he is a student at Ole Miss. And I'm sure y'all may have seen it on the book, but he lives in the Delta. So hopefully, crossing fingers, saying prayers, however you want to put it, maybe we can get him on and actually talk to him about the book. But I want to go ahead and get into chapter 1. So right out the gate, y'all, tell me what was the most, I don't know, what just hit you out of chapter 1? What was that for you? For me, I was, like I said, the craze part of the book had already like had me like, wow. But then when I got into chapter 1, it was really a lot of things. It was a lot of things, but it would be the racial reconciliation part, repentance, and just the fact that racism even exists in the church. So if you would, in the comments, tell me what about chapter 1 really stood out to you. Yolanda, listen, I'm working my way up to asking. He's been liking the post on Instagram, so that's like my way in. I'm just hoping if I post enough, he'll actually respond to my email. The bombing, yes, that was. I mean, we've all heard about that church. I mean, it was something. Well, I learned about that in school, but the church bombing was really, it was really eye opening that these were kids that passed away, and that someone would do that. It doesn't even add up, right? So I want to talk about some things that I outlined, and the main thing is that Christians. This is from page 14. Is my internet messed up, or is it something else? Because I keep saying it's going, it's kind of spotty. There was my internet disclaimer, just letting y'all know the internet is a little spotty, but I'm gonna try to get through it. I'm gonna have new internet by next week, so let me know. Yes, Kimmy is speaking again about the bombing. But I wanted to talk about on page 14, the sentence. It's the 1, 2, 3, fourth paragraph where it says, Morgan also recognized that Christians bore as much responsibility as anyone for the state of race relations in city. And it said that the Christians and all their ministers spoke too late in anguish cries about violence. And that was kind of how I felt about George Floyd. Tova, who she commented earlier, I don't know if she's still watching, but when George Floyd passed, at that time, I was attending a multiracial church, and Tova and I, we were out having lunch at Subway, and I was just telling her, like, it was kind of bothering me, not kind of, it was bothering me that nobody had said anything in the group chat. Nobody asked how the Black people were doing. Nobody brought it up. Nobody texted me. And it wasn't that I felt like I needed special attention. It was that, you know, these were people that I interacted with on a weekly basis, that I, you know, like I watched their children in the nursery, and I'm serving alongside you. And this event happened that has literally traumatized me and millions of other people, and nobody said anything. And I thought that was very strange, you know, very strange to be part of a church and in a group chat where all these people are in and nobody said anything. So again, that really stood out to me. And so we have a comment from Yolanda. She says, Lecrae said, we live in a country centered around whiteness that disregards how the image of God is on magnificent display in non-white bodies, in histories and theologies, etc. Yeah, so I want to bring up something about Lecrae because I really enjoyed that, and I underlined so much. My book is full of underlining. But I want to show y'all a clip, and this is following George Floyd's murder. You know, that really kicked off this modern day civil rights movement that we see right now. And this is a conversation that Lecrae was part of. And it pissed me off because he was sitting there and he didn't say anything. And to read his forward in a book, I'm like, dude, how could you not say something? But I'm going to show y'all this clip. And it just really, to me, illustrates how Black Christians have to kind of toe this line. Like, for me to really fully believe in my faith, it goes counter. It is completely counter this culture that I live in. And how do you make that make sense? But let me show y'all this clip before I get too far ahead of myself.
Understand the curse that was slavery, white people do. And we say that was bad, but we miss the blessing of slavery, that it actually built up the framework for the world that white people live in and lived in.
Okay. Did y'all hear that? I'm going to play that one more time. This is from the Young Turks YouTube channel. I have my copyright disclaimer in the box, but I want to play that again so y'all can hear what he said.
Passion City Church in Atlanta. Let's hear what he had to say.
We understand the curse that was slavery, white people do, and we say that was bad, but we miss the blessing of slavery, that it actually built up the framework for the world that white people live in and lived in. And so a lot of people call this white privilege, and when you say those two words, it just is like a fuse goes off for a lot of white people, because they don't want somebody telling them to check their privilege. And so I know that you and I both have struggled in these days with, hey, if the phrase is the trip up, let's get over the phrase and let's get down to the heart.
Okay. So there was something there, right? He called it, as Tova said, a very interesting choice of words, saying the blessing of slavery. Now, this is a pastor at a church in Atlanta having a conversation with a Black recording artist who is very well known for his Christian faith. She said she would have put that title like Jesus in the temple. I don't know how he sat there through that. But what happens there is where that reality meets, like, y'all got some interesting comments. I'm trying to read them. So that's their reality. I just like seeing that and experiencing it. It's like, wait, you don't want to believe that people really think like that, but you have to take someone at their word, especially the platform. He's a pastor. Again, he's talking to a Black man, and that's what a lot of people don't understand. There is no America as we know it without slavery. There is no America being the most powerful country, or so they say, in the world without slavery. And when you compare that to the Black community and the oppression that we have continuously faced, it doesn't add up. And then to be a pastor, to pastor a congregation with Black people in the audience, to pastor people in general about Christianity, to even think that you could say, oh, well, white people get bothered by the phrase white privilege, so let's call it something else. You don't have the right to do that. And this is a similar pattern that we'll see on in the book, but I just wanted to share this clip in case you all had not seen it. That this was very interesting, and this is what, and I hate to use this term, but this is just what I is coming to me. This is what we're dealing with. This is what we're up against when we try to have these conversations. And it's this thing that you see in the church where people try to flip something from what it was and telling people, no, you need to look at it like this. And I just feel like that disregards that person's real life experiences. So I want to talk a little bit about racial reconciliation, because this is something that, although I love this book, I appreciate Jemar's work for the first time I felt represented, I guess you could say. But I disagree with him on racial reconciliation. And in the book, he says that history and scripture teaches us that there can be no reconciliation without repentance. But I don't think that there can be reconciliation, period, because reconcile literally means to go back to a time when things were good. And if you think about Black Americans, when was it ever good? If y'all, I brought out my big book. This was the first book I picked for the book club, stamped from the beginning. And the title, it just sums up what I'm trying to say. Black people have literally been stamped since before we landed, before we arrived in America. So what would you be reconciling to? So I actually hate that term, and I don't use racial reconciliation. It will never happen. That could never happen, because it was never good in the first place. So I would actually like to, as we go through these discussions, let's see if we can coin a new term. Let's see if we can do that together. So Kimmy saying they actually get offended when we speak up about how had it not been for our ancestors, there wouldn't be in America. And again, this is where the reparations debate is centered around. People really don't feel like Black Americans deserve anything after being in 400 years of slavery. That's not even counting oppression after all of that. Yes, Yolanda, let's burn the system down. Let's just actually, they can have the system, but I would agree that I think that Black people just need to separate. But that's another conversation for another topic. I think all in all, I think that racial reconciliation, it just misses the mark, and we need something better for that. I want to ask a specific question again, like I did in the beginning. And before we go further, I'm curious in knowing, how do you define and understand racism? To me, racism is, I understand and define it the same way that Tisby does, which is that it's power. Let me actually read. I'll read it. But as I'm finding his definition, I want you all to tell me how do you define and understand racism? Because some people would say that Black folks can't be racist, but I disagree. Racism does, it's about a belief. It's an ideology for me, and it's that one group is superior over others for whatever reason, because they decided to and they make the rules. But that's what it's like for me. Nick, I love that question. I'm gonna come back to that once people add how they define and understand racism. And so as you're thinking about that, I also want you to tell me if you've ever actually experienced racism. If you feel comfortable sharing that. And so as you think about those things, I want to talk about what Nick said. So Yolanda says racism is oppressing due to race, period. Okay. Yeah, Kimmy, that part. We talk about that. So to go to what Nick said, and we'll come back to those questions. Nick asked the question, as Black Christians, do you think we can be able to work with the other side rather than reconciling? And that question, that was how I approached this book club. The book club, and you can ask Tova. Tova is in the chat. Tova and I spent a lot of time talking. We were in communication a lot when all of this started to like come about for me. And I was, in my mind, I was like, okay, if this is a thing, we know this is a thing, we can't run from this thing anymore, but we all claim to believe in the same higher power and his son. So that means that we cannot be divided. We need to be able to unify and fix this problem. And so I felt like, white people and some Black people, they just don't know. They don't know that they're doing this, or they don't know that this is what it looks like. They don't know how we feel because we don't ever say it. But I began to, as I approached this, like, okay, let's do this. I found that it's not something that you can't really work with someone who is unwilling to acknowledge how you feel and acknowledge it as a fact. Like, this ain't no opinion. And some people just don't believe it. You know what I'm saying? And so that's one thing. And then the second thing was, by me, you know, approaching my book club in a way of educating people, and specifically white people, I was like, that ain't my job. Like, I'm grown. You know how much I had to work to learn and understand these things. Like, you know, this exists. So it's your job if you really care and really want to do something. So to answer your question, like, I went through a phase of asking myself that, can we work with the other side and just not reconcile? It would just have to be, you would have to really agree on everything, or agree on the things that matter. And I don't know if we could do it all. I don't know if with the way things are now that it can be done, because it's still areas of Christianity that we don't really want to touch. And in order for us to work with the other side, we'll have to touch it all. And I don't know. I feel I'm trying to answer that. But I guess, yeah, I can work with anyone. And that's my thing too. Like, I've been getting some heat lately because I have become more publicly pro-Black. But I don't dislike white people. I don't hate white people. A lot of our customers are white. My thing is, you need to be on code. You need to respect me, respect my experience, and not try to tell me what to do, not try to tell me how to feel. You don't get to benefit from the things that have been pure hell in my life and then tell me how to go about dealing with it, or what I feel like is good for me in my community. Or people that look like me, think like me. That's something that I need to be able to do on my own. And I don't think some Black people don't even want to touch that. So I just think it'll be a lot of unlearning on both ends. But if we can agree to do that and actually do it, go through that process, I do think we can work with the other side and not reconcile. But this is America. And every time we try to kind of do our thing, we're met with like what we're commemorating today, 100 years of Tulsa, since the Tulsa massacres. So I don't know. I could work with the other side and stay in my lane and they stay in theirs, but you know, it would take lots of us to be able to do that. Excuse me. So I want to go to some comments. Right. Nick also said racism is systematic oppression against a race in regards to economy, housing, jobs, etc. I also think, and I want to share this from the beginning. Y'all, I keep referring to this book because this book, I wanted to start with this book for a reason. I started with this book for a reason because this is, and this some Christians may not like, but Christianity in itself is like the manifestation of white privilege from how it arrived in America. Nick and I talked about this earlier today, off the record, but you know, and Tisby mentioned it, that Christianity existed in America. Christianity existed in Africa prior to slavery. And a lot of people bring that up. When I met with my pastors at the time regarding this book, that was the first thing that one of the pastors said. And I have no issues with that. But I feel like, and I'm going somewhere with this, I feel like to immediately say, oh, Christianity was in Africa first. That kind of misses the point of this conversation, because Christianity being in Africa has nothing to do with Christianity in America. And you will see in the book, there was always a motive when evangelizing. There was always a motive that was in the Europeans' interest. So that is very different from being in Africa and experiencing it outside of that. And that's the only way that we know it, through the oppression. That's the way that we know it. It's not, slaves didn't bring Christianity. Not that in any history books that I've seen and read. That was something that was strategic on part of the Europeans. So it kind of angers me that our spirituality has always been toyed with. And I'm gonna go there, but I'm saying it to say, as far as racism it's systematic oppression, but racism, again, I believe, is a belief. It's an ideology, because we have it's anti-Blackness. It's anti anything that ain't white. That's to me what racism is, because whiteness is the standard. In every minority group, there's a hierarchy, and it doesn't just affect Black people, but we're always the bottom in every situation. So it's not systematic without it being an idea first. I also think racism is an evil spirit. It's a demonic spirit. I think that white supremacy is a spirit that is global. So racism for me is bigger than just the system. It's the belief in your mind. So I'm gonna go to another comment. Yolanda says, well, y'all can read it, but I'll read it just in case someone's watching and may not be able to read or see it. Yolanda says they don't want to touch that Jesus was a nappy-headed ninja. They don't want to touch that Egypt is in Africa, that Africans are a part of the creation story. So this is something, again, this whole topic, really exploring this, has led to me exploring other things. And I actually read one of the books of the Bible that is not in the traditional Bible, the book of Enoch. And it, like, y'all, it blew me away. And it touches on what people look like. It touched on Noah and what he looked like. And it's an amazing book. I love the book. I've actually been thinking about doing a Bible study on it. Let me know if y'all would be interested in that. But the book of Enoch, and all the people that existed, and he described what the fallen angels looked like. He described what Noah looked like and how he was different from the other people. It's really good. So let me know if y'all would be interested in it. So I think that Kimmy is talking in response to what Nick's comment about working together and not reconciling. And she says that just like we are tactful in our interactions with them, they have to be more tactful and tasteful in their own behavior. That's true. And what she's speaking about is a concept called uplift suasion, where literally Black people went from the plantation to taking what you could call like these seminars, not officially, but they were fed this belief that you have to stay in line. You know, you free now, so make sure you go to church, make sure you go to school, you need to get married, you need to stay away from this. And it bred in us how to talk and how to assimilate into society. And so she's saying that if we had to do that, then they need to do their part to work with us like we're equal now. Everybody knows that we're equal. We dealt with racism. It's out there. Now y'all gotta give us the same respect that we give y'all in our interactions. Okay, so this is another angle. Yolanda is saying, in reference to what I said about Christianity being in Africa is irrelevant, that she thinks it's important because many white Christians don't know that Africans were Christians before coming to America. They didn't save us. They didn't bring us to God. Many of our ancestors were already there. And so, yeah, that's true. I just feel like when we have these kind of conversations, to interject it sometimes takes away from the point and the focal point of it being used as a tactic. But yes, I guess from that perspective, that would be important. But I mainly hear it from Black person to Black person, which kind of goes into things we'll talk about later. So I'm gonna move forward and just touch on a couple things. Thank y'all again so much for watching. Please share this broadcast with anyone you think would be interested in it. Please like it, give it a thumbs up if you're on YouTube. And don't be afraid to comment. That actually helps me get more comfortable. I was really nervous before I came on. But yeah, keep doing all that. It's helping me out. So this is on page 17, it talks about how complicity is really a weak word. Because yeah, you may not have been lynching, you may not have been you may not have lynched, or you may not have done anything bad to a Black person, but the fact that you didn't say anything is part of the problem. Is still doing something bad. And a lot of people use the argument that Christians just like to, the separation of church and state. Christians, we don't get into politics and all of that, but Christians do get into politics when they want to. We all know that. So it's really a lot of hypocrisy just floating around. It's the church is very political when it wants to be, like about prayer in school, now about transgender rights and the children receiving medical care and all of those things. That is political, right? So again, it's all about just picking and choosing what's important or what they want to talk about, and it's never the Black issues. And that in itself is, to me, is racism. So I want to ask another question, and I'm gonna just get a couple of comments here. Yes. Kim brings up a good point that I have also seen, and this is where the witchcraft and voodoo and all that kind of stuff, the demonizing of African spirituality kind of comes into play too, but we'll touch on that later. So I want to throw another question out there. Have you experienced guilt while exploring this topic? And I ask that because, again, I know we're in our spiritual journeys. We all come to the table with, different backgrounds, different beliefs. So I may have felt guilt and others may not. But I do want this is a safe space, one, because I'm curating it, and I will make sure to block any negative comments or any hate comments or anything like that. But so Yolanda says no in all caps. She has not experienced guilt. But I have. I want to be a little honest. And Tony just got here, so he'll be joining us really soon. I want to give him time to get settled in. Are you gonna go on another screen, or are you gonna just scoot in with me? You want to just scoot in with me? We trying to decide if he's gonna go on another screen. No, you can just scoot in with me. He's gonna join me, but you can't be smacking. So talking about guilt, experiencing guilt while exploring this topic. I went through a lot of that. I went through a lot of guilt because I felt like I was causing issues. And it could have been just because of the people that I was dealing with, but I felt guilty for, I guess, making people or pointing out things that other people may not have been ready or wanted to see. But do I care? No. I mean, I did. I went through I ain't gonna lie, because Tony could bust me out, but I did care initially. Now I don't. But I experienced guilt with this. I really did. So Kim says not so much guilt, but she felt conflicted with how do I work side by side with non-POCs and show up as my whole Black self and not offend the. Yes. So that's kind of what I mean. Like
that shouldn't offend nobody though. That's the whole thing. We shouldn't even be trying to figure out a way to do it to not because they be their whole selves all day, every day, and they don't care how offensive it is. So all of it is just. But
and when you say people be their whole selves, we're not even always talking about like the races that's just out there with it. No, just white people in general.
I'm not talking about the races. I'm just saying being free and like that. Like it's something will be it'll be something that a group of that Black people have been known to be doing. It'll be things we known for that people call ghetto or whatever. And then they'll take it and do it and water it down or however you want to say it. And it'll be cool, but it's the same thing. You see what I'm saying? So when I say be themselves, Just like how they went to down there and did like
the Capitol riots.
Yeah, the Capitol riots. Like how they went down there, like they weren't thinking about what people was gonna think. They weren't thinking about being or they crazy or they they did what they wanted to do.
Yeah.
And that's how we need to move in life. Not saying just be crazy and be radical and do whatever. I'm just saying we gotta be us, unapologetic. Like,
so it's like Tony was like really the only person here for me aside from my sister and my mom when I was going through this. Like it really tore me apart. And you know, it's just like trying to like, how can I, for me, like I know what God has done in my life, but I also know the not so happy things that I felt in regards to my religion. Like I knew sometimes I did feel unfair. Like why did I have to be Black and be part of the community that experienced this? I would love to be able to go out about my life, not worried about getting killed with the police, not worried about my sons growing up and getting killed by the police, not worried about my husband coming back home. I have dealt with, why do I even want to partake in this? You know what, you know, if it's not really changing my life, I just keep waiting on something and waiting. And I know God, he moves. Like it's been over 400 years. Why has there not been change for us? And so that, even thinking along those lines, made me feel guilty.
I love what Yolanda just said.
Okay, let's see.
I was like, that made me swear. I love it. Like
yeah, but see, but are we apologetic in church? Are all the time?
That's what I'm saying.
I want to talk about, okay, so Nick says, no, he hasn't felt guilt because religion is a systematic approach. It's clearly stated in the first 3 chapters of the book. And when I read the Bible and studied about Christ, I feel the Spirit and learn from the Spirit, not the man-made institution, if that makes sense. Yes, so that's like, I have moved into a different way of practicing Christianity. So things that I may be open to now, I wasn't before, or and for many reasons, not one reason or another, but I have kind of crafted my own way of practicing it because of my relationship with God. Even just the book club, this book club, I feel like God called me to do this. And some people probably think I'm raising hell, but that's something I feel like God calls me to do. I think he's very okay with us having these discussions and causing trouble. I think he's okay with that. So
of course he's okay with that. Like he gave us a mind to think. He created this, so he already knew it was gonna be some confusion and us not knowing. He had to be aware of that creating us. You know what I'm saying? So don't nobody truly know. Like it's so you gotta go off your faith. You just gotta, like he said, you gotta like get to know God for yourself. You know what I'm saying? The Spirit, however you like, because God guides different people differently. Everybody can't tell you how to you know what I'm saying, about your God. Like you can learn things from other people, but it's still certain things that have to be personal and things you have to experience personally. I'm telling you, like, because there's things that I experienced, no one could never tell me God ain't real.
Right.
Like,
and that's why I caution. Now don't get me wrong, I've had some days where I'm like, man, this ain't human. Like, this is, I'm done.
That's just being
but then I always come back like, no. So Kimmy says our generation was raised with all these repurposed beliefs and how, yes, we've been taught some of these. Oh, but yes, absolutely. And I think even not like a lot of us have not made a choice. Like we think we've made a choice to follow Christ. A lot of us are literally doing it because that's what we've been taught. We've never explored anything else. And I think that is a direct reflection of slavery. Yolanda, look, Tony is really loving your input. Tony, please tell people what this tattoo is, because this is also on YouTube, and I'm stopping to do this for a reason because YouTube is full of trolls, and somebody will probably say that this is a Nazi symbol. So can you please explain? Just tell them what this is and clear up If anybody is wondering that.
It's not a Nazi symbol. I would never put anything like that on me. This is the number 47. You clearly can see it's the number.
Not clearly, but we see
No,
it.
you clearly can tell. Once, like, now that I'm saying it, if somebody couldn't tell, they can see this.
Okay.
They unsee it. But it's a number that I hear and see every single day of my life. And I looked up reoccurring numbers, and mine was 47 was considered an angel number, and I had to add the 4 and the 7 to number 11, and it was a special number and it had special meanings behind it. And that's all. It ain't nothing like that. So please don't.
Okay, thanks. I just had to have him clear that up. So I want to give y'all the link to call in. And I'm posting it here in the chat. Let me know if you cannot see it. Oh, it looks like, yeah. So it's showing up on YouTube, but I don't know that it showed up on Facebook. So this is the link to the chat. Maybe I can, let's see if I can go on Facebook real quick and do it. Nick, where you're watching from Facebook, because I know Nick said that he wanted to dial in. If you can even call it that. So Nick, where are you watching? You know what? I can just DM it to you to make sure you get it.
Sorry, I'm late, y'all, too. I had to work. I ended up working late. Sorry, baby, I was late.
It's okay.
I was trying my best.
Okay, so Nick. Okay, so Yolanda is called in. Okay, Nick, I sent it to you via DM. So I'm gonna since we're wrapping up chapter 1, I'm gonna go ahead and let Yolanda speak her piece. Hey, Yolanda.
Okay.
Are you there?
Okay, I am. I had to mute Facebook. It was like double. I was like, hold on. I got 50 tails open, right? So listen, I'm so glad that you're doing this because we really need to have these conversations. Like, we can't be cavalier in our faith. Like, we have to have these conversations, and even to be Christian, it's about the truth. Like, it's the truth. And if we're going to be Christian, like, we have to tell the truth. And guess what? The truth is not always easy to be processed, but it's the truth. So, like, I'm glad that you're being courageous enough to do this. I am reading this book, honey. It's that black girl from South Memphis. It's her rooting you on. And
yes.
Smoke, they can get it.
That book make you feel something when you're reading it, don't it?
Listen, I got so many highlights and underlines and tabs and looking up words that I didn't know. I was like, hold up, dictionary.
Hey, I looked up a word I didn't know today too. Because that's crazy.
That's good. That's good. Thank you for calling in. I'm gonna have to get you the co-host.
Listen, I'm gonna tell you the line that stood out to me really was about Christians could have confronted racism instead of compromising, and I think it was more. It was more than compromise, because compromising is kind of like, like, we compromise on. If I tell my niece she want hot dogs for breakfast, and I tell eat some eggs and some bacon, and I'll let you have hot dogs for lunch.
Mm-hmm.
That's the compromise.
Yeah, that's key.
But when you're dealing with human life and you don't speak up, that's cowardly. Like, I'm writing an essay now. I remember when I was 17, my childhood pastor, like, he had this man removed from church, and you could tell like he was homeless or whatever. But they considered him to be a disruption. But I was sitting right in front of him, and I just felt like he was talking to God. And I felt like church was like a hospital. Like, this is where you come to be healed. This is where you come to be delivered, and you put people out. So of course, me, I always been about their life. So I called the pastor home. Why you ain't put out? And he said something to the resort of my church. And I was like, that's not your church. That's God's church. He just allowed you to shift it, but that ain't your church.
Exactly.
And, it's just, I've always been about that advocacy work. Like, I ain't playing games with you. This ain't none of your church. Like, this is not how Christians are to operate. This is not how it's supposed to go down in the Church of God. And like, we gotta stop being cowards and
I
speak up.
love that. I love that. Cause I think even like in having this conversation, like I might come off like I'm courageous, but it's not, I mean, it's not easy. Like all my videos about this get dislikes on YouTube, you know, and
Girl,
then
people don't even like themselves. Girl, don't be straight. They don't
right.
even like themselves.
But not only that, it seems like nobody really cares, you know, and that to me makes me sometimes shrink back. But I think God is really calling us to, like, y'all gonna do something about it or what? Like, y'all waiting on me, I'm waiting on y'all. Like,
I don't think that it's that people don't care. I think that people have just gotten comfortable. Like I said all the time, like all this stuff that's happening, if Black people keep their money in their pocket, like I said, people all the time, Montgomery bus boycott wasn't about nobody sitting at the front of the bus. They bankrupted and the white folks couldn't even get to work. Keep your money in your pocket. It's buy only what you need and stop buying all this extra stuff. And you gonna see what make white people move. My grandma used to say, white people don't understand nothing but money talk. And as an adult, I have learned it.
And I think you not to cut you off, but I want to make this point because it goes back to what I was trying to say about racism, that Black churches hands not clean in this. You know, it's not this is not just a white issue. This is also, you can find elements of anti-Blackness and racism in the Black church. And that's partly like when you talk about being comfortable, that's because they are comfortable with oppression and I'm not. So I may have to live under these conditions, but while I'm living and while, you know, while I have breath, I'm going to speak out against it and actively work against it. Thank you so much for calling.
Hey, I'm going to read you this one quote before I leave. And I feel like it's going to give you something to think about. It's actually from Mamie Till, the mother of Emmett Till. And her quote is, 2 months ago, I had a nice apartment in Chicago. I had a good job. I had a son. When something happened to the Negroes in the South, I said, that's their business, not mine. Now I know how wrong I was. The murder of my son has shown me that what happens to any of us anywhere in the world had better be the business of us all. And I feel like daily, that's how we should be living our lives. Like if they're racist toward the Asian people today, the Black people gonna get their turn eventually, and the autistic kids gonna get their turn eventually. Everybody gonna get a turn. So when you quiet when somebody else getting their turn, don't speak up when it's your turn because you was already quiet.
Right.
Keep quiet. You got anything you want to add to that?
All I want to say is right. Facts. I 1,000% agree. Like. I had something I wanted to say, but it's y'all made me think of this when y'all was talking, but it's literal. I'm gonna get straight to it. Like, I'm tired of being in church hearing the same messages about sex before marriage and smoking weed, but these white people here who hate you and ain't gonna do nothing with you other than some outside of some dealing with church who really, I'm telling, like, you don't speak on none of that, nothing that really matters. Like, it just. Oh, this stuff is crazy.
What a tip giant. God preach.
It's like, how did
put your cash app in the chat?
I used to be in church wondering, like, looking around, like, do these people realize, like, do y'all understand, like these people, like this, like they teaching you something positive, but they not even doing that. Like, they hate you. How they gonna tell you to be good, but they hating you? And like, man.
Okay, y'all. I'm gonna give Nick a chance to pop on. But yeah, girl,
we have Kim and then we're gonna get to Nick.
Thank y'all for calling in too, for real.
You're welcome. Okay, let me
have a good night. Don't hang up completely. Still hang on with us.
I'll be on Facebook, right? If I log out this, I'll be on Facebook, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. So thank y'all for calling in. She made some great points. She started going like. I'm way over the time limit. We supposed to be wrapping up now, but I'm gonna get Kim and Nick and we'll just finish the discussion in the Facebook group. So if you're not part of the Unlearning Anti-Blackness Book Club Facebook group, I know this is a mouthful, please make sure you join. All the links are on my website. I'll make sure to put them in the description or the chat. Kim, we're coming to you. Look, see, Yolanda, she gonna try to get me in trouble with my mama. My mama watching the kids for us. We got a time with Lisa, baby. Okay, Kim. Hi, Kim.
Hey, girl.
Thank you for calling in. What would you like to add to the discussion?
I think this goes back to what we were talking about on Instagram today.
Mm-hmm.
That my personal belief at this point is I have to be radical in my spiritual journey so that my children are not watered down in their beliefs and how they carry themselves and their level of pride in who they are. Like, it's at a point now that it's life or death.
Yes.
And while we still have to we have to teach them how to assimilate in some of these atmospheres with people that don't look like us, they should be able to walk in power and walk in their truth and be their whole black self, simply because we are who we are. And it's at a point to where you have little black and brown children that don't know their history. They don't know where our forefathers and foremothers have came from. They don't know how much of a privilege, as much of a blessing and a curse in a sense, it is to be black or brown. That we are the Aboriginal people. And it's like, I still go to a multiracial church, like I told you today. But my pastor did something last year when George Floyd passed that was profound. And it made the paper here in Baton Rouge or whatever. He had a black bishop from a black non-denominational church come and sit down, and they did a live. And Pastor Mike did not overtalk Bishop. He leaned in as an ally. He asked what he wanted to ask, but he pretty much gave Bishop the floor to explain some of the connotations and the ideology of being black in America, and how much harder it is, the road traveled for us than it is for maybe him or people that look like him. And it was in a news article, and they were saying how profound that was, that Pastor Mike Heyman sat with a black bishop from across town out of Wimburn and spoke on these issues. And it's like, no, that's what white allies are supposed to do. They're supposed to stand in solidarity with us. They're supposed to call truth to power, just like we call truth to power. White allyship is you actually standing in agreement with the oppressed. You're not standing on the side of the oppressor, you're standing with the oppressed. And there were a lot of white people at my church that really didn't get it, and they didn't understand it. But like when they were changing Facebooks to all default pictures black and everything like that, my church stood in solidarity with us. They were checking in on us as people of color, because my pastor's biggest thing is that heaven is going to look the way that our church looks. So you can't go there and be you can vote for who you want to vote for, you can believe in what you want to believe in, but at the end of the day, heaven is going to be a sea of people of all different colors, nationalities, and ethnicities. So you can't say you love your brother and you hate the color of their skin. Those two cannot reconcile themselves. That's why I said today, I think my pastor probably read this book, because he really give it to him. And he's white, blonde hair with blue eyes, and he just not for it. He stands on the side of righteousness, because at the end of the day, our children are going to be the next. You hear my baby?
Oh yeah, no, it's good. It's good.
You have to, just like we're preparing and planning for our children's upbringing and the next generation to be able to carry forth truth. Those little white and Mexican and Asian children are going to be the ones to carry on for the next generation as well, and they have to coincide with one another.
I love what you said. I'm gonna let you go first, Tony. Well, I was gonna say, so as we talked on Instagram, I shared that I actually left my church that I was attending, and I went from being very active to being like, no, this ain't it. And it was like to hear you say, you know, what you just shared, to share that would have made the difference for me. And so my experience, like I said in the beginning of this stream, my life changed when the moment I saw George Floyd's death on TV. I have said this a million times. He probably could say it verbatim, but I had avoided that all day and ended up seeing it. And I was enraged. I was pissed off. And as I said, I didn't know, nobody checked on us, you know. And I ordered a bunch of books, Color of Compromise being one of them. And then I was reading them and I brought them to my pastor at the time and, you know, shared like, hey, this book is saying exactly how I feel while being at this multiracial church. You know, I felt like everything was catered toward the white members. The church itself, like, it was just land of the white folks and the wannabe white folks. Like, it just, no disrespect, but I mean that in a way of just this going with the status quo, this going with, oh, we all see this and secretly feel it because we've had outside conversations, but nobody's saying anything. Right. And I was very put off by that. You know, like, had I been at a multiracial church where the pastor really put forth an effort to have this discussion and have it truthfully and honestly and give, you know, Black congregants an opportunity to speak, an opportunity to be truthful about this, where, you know, in a space like you said, having this live, that would have made the difference. But their response, we actually ended up doing an invite only race group. And I'm saying invite only because there wasn't a campaign to push it. I got an email, but I later found out, you know, that people were asked to be part of it versus it being a public something that was pushed like the other Bible study group, you know. And then it was this place where it was still like making it, like, asking questions that were like shouldn't have been asked, in terms of like, do you think racism exists? You know, like questions along that line. And it just really, like, it just made me, and I'm gonna let you jump in on this, but to hear that it could have been done another way, to know it could have been done and to hear it could have been done, that kind of helps me, and it restores my faith, I guess, in the whole church system. Because after that, I was kind of like, I had church at home, because I can't be somewhere where I'm feeling like I'm a problem because I'm bringing up something that we all see and experience. And what is the reason why we can't say it? What's the reason why this can't be the topic? Now, I don't know, you know, what has happened since I was no longer there, but I'm talking about when I was there. Right. That really, like, it was hurtful. And it angered me. And you know, it's just like, this will never work. Like, this is never gonna change if we can't really be honest. And if we're not being honest, then I have to ask why. And
it gave me something for my pastor to spearhead all of those conversations and dialogues from the point of the murder on now. Like, I don't feel like I'm a Black member of that church. I feel like I am a member of that church. My children are members of that church. And that we're not seen just by the color of our skin. That we're truly accepted, and I feel like it's a safe space. It's not just because I'm one color and another margin of the other congregants or another color. Like, we're all one. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you, the Sunday after the election, they had a lady that had a Trump button, biggest day on her dress. But out of respect for everybody around, she didn't say anything. We ain't say anything. It's there has to be some reconciliation work, and you have to be able to know, like my pastor says it on a regular basis, if I make you uncomfortable, good, because some of these things that are not being spoken about in the churches was hindering the church. The church can't go forth and be the hands and feet of Christ if we tiptoeing around different parts of how we interact as people. We can't teach love thy neighbor, and you don't like your neighbor because they black, or you don't like your neighbor because they're white.
Or not even just not liking, like not being courageous in your faith, like not feeling like this is part of your fight when I'm your quote unquote sister and brother in Christ. You know, like you should be hurting from what I'm going through, and you should be hurting to a point where you feel like you start to find your place in it. But I'm gonna stop here. We'll continue this in the Facebook group. Thank you so much for calling in. I want to get to Nick before he hang up on me, but I really appreciate you, Kim, and we will continue this in the group either tonight or tomorrow. Thank you so much.
Bye, girl. No problem.
Bye.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know.
Nick, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hey, what's up, Nick? So what do you have to add? We're gonna let you close it out with a bang, because I know you got some point to say.
Not me with the bang, but but yeah, from reading the first 3 chapters, I totally agree with everything you were saying, and I also I also, you know, think about what you were saying about how when George Floyd passed away, and when other black people that were murdered in the U.S. at the hands of white people or the police, and sympathize with you. Well, not sympathize with you. I know that would kind of pissed me off too, and kind of made me feel a certain type of way. And I feel like things need to be said to people like that, not in a way that, you know, is forceful, but, you know, like you said, ain't nobody text. I probably would have said, so ain't nobody seeing what's on you right now. Like that.
Well, and on top of, because, you know,
hold on.
She was the first person that I said something to about it. Oh, I'm sorry.
Nah,
y'all internet spotty.
Go ahead.
But that's why I brought Tova up, because she, like, we were sitting at a table and I just told her, I flat out said, like, because she was asking, we were talking about the, you know, George Floyd's murder. And I was telling her, you know, like, as a white woman, we went to Emmett Till. We talked about a lot of things, but I was just telling her, like, you know, ain't nobody saying nothing. And then later on, she came in the group and said something, but it still was like, how could you not? Like,
yeah.
You know, it's like we live in 2 different worlds until we come to church, until we're at church.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. When you get to church, everybody putting on this facade and everybody acting like this, like we're not even like this. Like Nick know what I'm talking about. Like we used to play basketball. That's really us. You see what I'm saying? Not saying you gotta be disrespectful, but like when you at church, the way y'all acting, this ain't how we act. You know, I used to be me, but they used to look at me crazy.
And I used to get mad at him. But anyway,
like, what you want me to do? I'm like, I'm at God. Like, did you tell me I'm alive? If I lie, I'm gonna go to. So why you want me to come to church and fake like I'm? You know what I'm saying? Like that ain't none of that real. So I knew someone right then. Like, not saying church is bad, but it needs some work. Construction. It needs some work done.
For real. So yeah, things I wanted to point out in the chapters. Y'all I kind of discussed one in the last lady that was on. She was basically, and they pointed this out. The reason why I said earlier, is it that we can we work together rather than reconcile, was because she is correct. Like it's written in Revelations, when it's time to go into heaven, you know, Jesus is gonna look at the land. It's gonna be different tribes, different sexes, different ethnicities, and you know, we all gonna be in the same space.
That's what I was gonna say.
And it's not gonna be from a worldly view. I don't think racism is gonna be in our thought process anymore. It's gonna
not at all.
Not anymore. So and I thought that was interesting, because I read a stat in the first chapter that said that African Americans, by statistics, are the most religious group of people throughout. I think if it's not throughout the world, I know throughout Western civilization, United States.
You brought up two things that I want to talk about, but we ain't got the time, man.
I was gonna point out what she said religion too. About she said her pastor biggest thing is everybody's gonna look like this. Everybody. And
we should do an after show.
That should tell you something about Christianity and religion in itself. The fact that if it's telling you that everybody gonna look like this, you can't expect everybody. Like, you see what I'm saying? Like, because all those people are different ethnic. And I mean, everybody gonna be a Christian. You see what I'm saying? But that don't mean that God ain't God.
Listen, Nick, would you be down for an after show?
Yeah, we can talk about it.
Cool.
Okay, look, we got to pick up our kids, y'all. So I hate to end it like this, but we got to go. Nick, I'm going to reach out to you when we hang up to talk about this, because I would love to like come back on later tonight if you have time, or tomorrow or another day. But anyway, y'all, thank you so much, Nick, for you like, I know it was probably some more you wanted to say, but they're right there. Look, Yolanda said add her on three-way. Look, we need to come back and do an after show.
I'm sorry, he touched on something exactly.
Yes. Okay, so for those of y'all that are watching the replay, or if you're not Nick and Yolanda, it's only 3 people watching. Thank you for tuning in. We will be back next week to continue this discussion. We did not get quite through it all, which I knew that was going to happen. But we're going to try to figure out a timing or a way to do this.
You might have to extend it a little longer or something.
Yeah. We'll figure it out. But I just want to thank y'all again. I'm going to post all links in the description box for people to come back and you find your copy of the book. You can join the Facebook groups. We'll talk there. Maybe we can create a room on Facebook. I don't know if it'll be easier. But we will be continuing this discussion. I'm going to end the broadcast now, y'all. Make sure y'all are following the Unlearning Movement on Instagram. Nick, you want to shout your pages out?
Oh yeah. Everybody that's on, follow Verbal Intercourse Jackson Instagram. On the podcast and platforms, follow Nick Walker's Verbal Intercourse. Check us out. We have a lot of different conversations based around Black millennial opinions and society and culture. So check us out.
Tony, you want to tell everybody how to find you?
You can find me on all platforms at Tlo the Champ. That's TLODA Champ. You can find me everywhere. You can just Google me.
And y'all can find me right here. Right here. Thank y'all again for watching. This was great. I appreciate y'all. We will be continuing this discussion. As I said, if you would like to support this book club and more content like this is actually leading to something big that I want to do. I'm putting it together right now. But if you would like to support that content and help produce it by your financial support, please visit me on Patreon. I am under Jessica Simeon Lofton, and memberships start as low as $3 a month, and you get different benefits and shout outs for being a patron. And I also will be posting exclusive content there. This is something that I just started doing. I've had it for a long time, but I never put it out. So if you like the content financially, so that we can do other things, please consider becoming a patron, or you can make a one-time donation contribution through Cash App. And if you want that information, just DM me and I will send it to you. But thank y'all again. I will see y'all next week. Bye.